I am here with Jen Szwagulak, and she is from Lake Ridge Academy. She is the Assistant Director of Admissions from kindergarten through first grade. How are you doing today, Jen?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. And we all look forward to hearing your presentation on kindergarten readiness. So I'm just going to allow you to share your screen and then you can go ahead and get started. But like I said, if while she's sharing her screen, if anyone has any questions in the chat, we are recording this session. So for any of you who you know, in the future, we're going to be able to see this session through the month of October. So thank you, Jen, for coming today, and let's get started.
Great. Thank you for having me. Before I show, I'm going to share some slides with all of you. Before I share my screen, I do just want to say a few moments about kindergarten. And as you prepare your young children to go into kindergarten, the things that I'm going to share today, I want you to keep in mind that they don't all have to be perfect as you're entering into kindergarten. It's such a special and wonderful time of growth for students. So these are suggestions and guidelines to help you prepare as you work and interact, and most importantly, play with your children. That these are things that you might want to keep in mind and guide them towards and kind of keep your eye on and look to see how your children are growing and starting to work and master some of these habits and skills. So with that being said, I will share my screen. Can you all see that? Can you see my screen? Okay.
I can see your screen.
Wonderful. So the first, what does kindergarten readiness look like? Keeping in mind from what I just said, that kindergarten readiness is just that. It's preparation and getting ready for kindergarten and having the majority of these skills and working on the readiness in these areas that I'm going to show, which are academic, behavioral, and social, are just guidelines to help prepare, honestly, parents so that you can look towards what's best for your child. The first we'll kind of touch on is kindergarten academic readiness in the area of fine motor skills. So how to hold a pencil is really an important skill that children learn and work on throughout pre-K. And it's an important skill as they go into kindergarten, and that is the muscles in their fingers being able to hold the grip of a pencil. Allowing your children, this is not something we need to sit and have them hold their pencil all day long. It's really coloring and practicing their name and having those instruments in their hands and just practicing and playing and getting used to holding different instruments. That will really help those fine motor skills. Writing your child's first name is important. That's something they will do daily in kindergarten. Having the having the initiative to attempt to write letters. We're not looking for perfection in kindergarten. D's and B's can be backwards, P's and Q's might be backwards, and that is absolutely okay. It is the willingness and the desire to start trying and attempting to write those letters on their own. Using a variety of tools to color and write. All of these, you can kind of see how they work hand in hand with one another. Markers, crayons, colored pencils, all of those materials are wonderful for your children to start experimenting and playing with. Using scissors to cut in a line. I am so sorry, parents, because this can often be frustrating because it makes a mess. But this is a really lovely skill for your children to have as they enter kindergarten. It's beautiful to start with just a pencil mark on a paper and allow them to cut straight. You can then move on to gentle curves or maybe zigzags and just allow your children to manipulate scissors and play. And then you can even make it a competition to see who can clean up the mess quickest afterwards. Using the appropriate pressure for glue. This is glue sticks and bottles. Again, I apologize, mom and dad, because that can be very messy, but it can also be a lot of fun. But it's very, very helpful as your child enters kindergarten to have some exposure to those materials. The next is literacy. This is a really fun one, and I'm going to encourage you as you work on literacy with your children to have fun. This should be a time of honest, great bonding for you and your child. Naming most of the letters. Your child does not need to enter kindergarten knowing every single letter and every single sound that it makes. While that is extremely helpful, and if they do, that is a wonderful thing, but exposing your child to the letters and allowing them, you can play games, memory games with that, and letting them just interact with the alphabet and get familiar is a really great thing. Being able to match print. So a letter A, can they match a block A with the letter A on a paper? So being able to identify visually and then match them up is important. The awareness of lower and uppercase. So noticing that there's a difference and which letter goes with which, knowing that a capital A is different than the lowercase a. Can they recognize their name? So if they can write it, they most likely can recognize it. So those kind of work hand in hand. Understanding the difference between words and letters, and that multiple letters make a word, not that they have to be able to read the words, but that they should see the difference. I apologize for hearing, if you hear my dog bark. Having the awareness of some letters. So do they know most of the high frequency letters, which would be C, T, S, R, and being able to call them out by name. Understanding the concepts of books. So the front cover, back cover, that we read from left to right. This is a great time. Read, 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 read to your children. Read and have fun and allow them to read to you. Even if they can't read the words in the book, let them sit down and read using a picture story and take a picture walk, as educators like to call it, and let them use those pictures to tell you a story. And that's getting familiar with turning the pages from left to right, recognizing that the pictures do in fact coincide with the words. And it's all that literacy awareness that children can start to intrinsically be motivated by books and wanting to learn and interact with them. Those are all really wonderful things. And you can even, I encourage, and I think it's a lot of fun when parents interact with their student or their child or their student, but interact with their child, and you can maybe guess what the story would be about based on the front cover, and sometimes guess wrong and let your child tell you, no, don't you see the cow? It's not about pigs. And just really, test them and have a lot of fun in that way. The next is math. It's encouraged that your child can count to 10 at a minimum. Can they count items out one by one into 10? So sorting blocks and counting to 10 or to 20. Identifying basic shapes, identifying basic colors, recognizing numerals 0 to 9, and then sorting by color and or shape. And that can easily be done with blocks, with crayons, with a wide variety of manipulatives that you might even have at home that you don't necessarily have to go purchase a ton of materials. Use the things that they're playing with every day. For example, my son, when he was in pre-K, we would go to Heinen's and eat often, and he would get pepperoni. And so we would count how many pepperoni he had, and he would count 10, 12. And then we would start to count backwards with subtraction. When he would eat one, you started with 10, you ate one. Oh no, how many do you have now? He would count them out. Oh my gosh, now I have 9. So, preparing your child for kindergarten doesn't have to be drill and repeat, sitting down and doing flashcards and working in workbooks. Use the things that you're doing every day. Use all of life's experiences around you and the things that you're interacting with your child or your child's interacting with, and use that to really start practicing these skills with them and have fun with it. This is a really important aspect, and this is definitely something, parents, that you can work on with your children as you're living life, and that is the social readiness. At Lake Ridge, we believe that the social and emotional readiness of a child is just as important as the academic, and they often go hand in hand. So really encourage you to take notice in some of these areas. Self-help skills. This can often be frustrating for us as parents, right? It's easier when we just do things for them sometimes, not just easier, faster. But I'm going to urge you to fight that instinct of just doing things for them and really encourage your children to start doing for themselves. opening their lunch, feeding themselves, maybe breaking apart a sandwich themselves, or ripping the crust off of a sandwich, putting on their jackets, zipping them, tying their shoes or learning to tie their shoes, putting items in a bag as you leave for the day, remembering everything that they needed. I needed a book, I need a water bottle, I need a mask, and making sure they have their items and they put it in the bag themselves. Obviously, parent guided, we don't want to run back home 35 times to get all of those things, but start prepping them to be able to manage their materials on their own and help themselves. Especially in the day and age we live in right now, hygiene skills, right? This is so important right now, making sure that a child is capable of washing their hands, approximately 20 seconds, and getting in there and doing it well, rinsing completely. Being able to care for their body after they use the restroom, blowing their nose, coughing and sneezing into an elbow, rubbing hand sanitizer until it dries into their hands, and just really being able to care for themselves physically is very helpful always, and especially the day we live now. I think this third one's really important. Being able to ask for help when needed, being able to advocate for themselves and to know that that's okay, that when they need help, they can ask for it and should be able to get the answers that they need. That often as parents is tough because then we have to not tell them all the time what to do, but allow them to come to us. The next one's important as well, and it's just as important for parents, helping children or the parent to separate from one another. And this can often be really difficult. I would encourage you, if you find yourself stuck in this area where it's really hard for either you or your child to separate from one another, start in really slow doses and start now. So maybe you separate for only 5 minutes, and maybe it's just next door to neighbors or grandmas or aunts. And then start to build that stamina. So to 10, to 20, to 30. And it's often best if you prep your child, right? And if you send your child to pre-K now, you might be doing that. Mommy's going to drop you off at this time. I'm going to be back at this time. In between, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and just really prepping them. Often that separation anxiety is the unknown. So start working with either yourself or your child now, so that when kindergarten comes, you've really prepared your child to be that independent learner, that independent person. There's a huge growth in kindergarten, and we want to give our children the best start we can.
Hey, Jen, I have a question also
please.
for that.
Yeah.
With so many parents right now, we are together a lot, all the parents, and, hopefully that won't be the case next year. But is there any ways they can, teaching those separation skills at home as well, especially as, many parents might not be limiting visits with friends and grandparents?
So my best suggestion, that's what I'm saying, if you do interact with neighbors, or if you are interacting with grandparents, aunts, uncles, that's a really easy way, and it's familiar to them. If you're not, the best suggestion I can give is start to encourage independent play outside of you. So while you might be, and of course, safety first, and you kind of have to know, depending on your living arrangements, it might be they play in their room for 5 minutes while you go in the kitchen, right? If you are limiting your exposure to people outside of your home, you just do the best you can with what you have. So, and I would encourage, it's not they're watching TV or on an iPad, but they're actually independently doing something. And it might only be 2 or 3 minutes, but that they cannot physically see you. Of course, safety, you want to be close, you want to be able to check on your child, but putting that separation in the best ways that you can. So it could be finishing a puzzle, and you go into maybe your bedroom or the bathroom or a kitchen or whatever your home situation looks like, and you encourage them to finish that project or that activity independently until you come back and get them. And then you go back in their room. Oh, great, you did the puzzle. I mean, if that is the activity or what you have, what you're allowing right now for safety reasons, do the best you can with what you have, because this is one important one right now, because we have so much togetherness with our children. It could even be obviously at a playground, you're not going to walk away from your child, but if you are going to a playground, encourage them to maybe go down the slide 4 times independently and then come back, and you might be on the bench watching them, but you're not right there next to them helping them do it the whole way through. Does that kind of answer your question, Angela?
No, that's perfect. And I think you said it perfectly too, that just generalizing that and you have in your next thing, but just being opportunities to be independent will help with that separation.
It will. And these are tricky times. And if you're a parent right now, that please don't use that, you know, if you're a parent right now that's worried about that because you have so much separation or so much togetherness with your child, keep in mind, you're not alone. You're not the only parent of a pre-K child right now that has that much togetherness, that is facing possibly the same things. You aren't alone. Others are right there with you. And so it won't just be your family that has this challenge as well. And that I don't know a kindergarten teacher alive that isn't looking for the best way to transition for a child. And so if this is a challenge that your family is facing, I really encourage you, as your child gets closer to kindergarten, to get involved in the school, even if it's through email, and email the teacher and talk about it. Talk about strategies, talk about ways that you can help your child that might transition well into that kindergarten classroom based on how that school handles drop off in the morning or recess. You know, just be involved, be aware. I know most teachers, I don't know any actually, that don't want what is best for the child. So do what you can now and be involved.
Great,
with your
thank
teacher.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. The last one in the social readiness, and you know, they kind of all go hand in hand, is your child will have more opportunities for independent experiences. You know, this can, it doesn't have to just be doing an activity on their alone on their own, but it could be those urges as parents. It's just so much easier if we do it, right? Have them take their plate to the sink. Have them wash their hands after they eat. Make their bed, even if it's just pulling the blankets up, right? They don't make it quite the way you want to, but they're doing it and they're making effort. Allow them maybe to order food. If you're not going out to restaurants, maybe you're ordering out. Have them order to you, right? Mom, could I please have? Dad, could I please have? And start learning how to interact and do for themselves. There's ways every day that we live life that we can give our children the opportunity to start that personal independence. Maybe it's letting the dog in when it comes in from going to the restroom. I mean, there could be so many different ways. Just look for those opportunities to help them do for themselves. The next one is very important right now, especially because we do have so much togetherness, and it is easy to not see our children always interact with their peers right now, especially if your child is at home or you're not able to go into the pre-K. So there is a lot of things that you can do with your child at home that will help them develop social and behavioral readiness. Practice delayed gratification. I don't know if we ever manage this. I'm still not great at this, right? But we can always be working on it. So waiting their turn. If you're talking on the phone with whomever, you know, a great phrase that I've always used with children when I've been working with them is, you know, just one moment. I'm talking to Mrs. So-and-so. What you have to say is very important to me, but I won't be able to hear you completely until I'm done. So please wait. Now, that's a great way to not dismiss your child's feelings, not to dismiss what they have to say is important, but to let them know, I can't hear both of you at the same time. And that is a form of delayed gratification. They have to hang on to what they want to say, but they need to wait their turn. So that's a really great way. Or you could also say, hey, lock that in, right? Pop it in your brain and lock it in, because I really want to hear what you have to say as soon as I'm done talking to grandma. Building resiliency. This is huge, and this will go with the separation as well. It can be academic or social things. It's frustrating when we don't get things right away, or when we have to do new things that we're not comfortable with. And you can I don't want to say easily, but a great way to build resiliency in your child is to remind them that they are capable of hard things. Start speaking that to them. I know that's frustrating. I know that is, but you can do hard things. Let's take a break and try it again in 5 minutes. You know, not allowing our children to quit or not allowing them to give up, but giving them the space to feel their frustration and then ask them to come back and try again is a great way to help with that. Being aware of personal space, just being aware of their surroundings, right? Just, you can do that at home. Hey, listen, the floor is a little bit of a mess. Before we move on, let's clean this up so we don't get hurt. So they can start to be aware of the things that are happening around them. Moving through space safely. This can be walking, not jumping. It can be being aware of the people that are sitting around them, and just kind of calling that into action is a great way, especially if your child has siblings. Experience with identifying feelings and then how to manage those emotions. I know at Lake Ridge, our wonderful kindergarten teachers call anger. It's a beautiful way of helping children to process it and to know how to verbalize their anger. They're in a hot spot. So you might hear at Lake Ridge, are you in a hot spot right now? Because the reality is we all get angry and we're all in hot spots at times, but it's what we do with it. So if you see your child is angry, you know, call it out. Are you in a hot spot? Are you feeling frustrated right now? Let's take a break. Let's come back to this in a minute. Let's talk about how we can handle that anger and give them options. You know, hitting your brother is not the appropriate reaction to being angry, but next time you could do A, B, and C. So starting to give your child options to handle emotions while you're really happy, that's so fantastic. Maybe we don't need to scream so loud every time we're happy. However, we could do A, B, and C, right? Because it's not always going to be socially acceptable to scream in the classroom, even if they're happy screams. And just starting to talk with our children about it. And the last one, practicing regulating impulses appropriately. That kind of goes back to managing our emotions. So many impulses are based on our emotions. And although challenging, sometimes we have to let our children feel those emotions and express them incorrectly to be able to walk them through what the appropriate response is. And these are all very typical and they are all very normal. And if you are working with your child on these, your child is perfectly normal. So these kind of all go hand in hand with the things we already spoke about. The only additional in here I would say would be to make eye contact, helping our children to learn to make eye contact with the speaker. Not only does it give the speaker recognition you're listening, but it also helps you to focus. I heard this one often when my child was in kindergarten, so he must have had trouble with it because the teacher would just say it a lot. Follow two simple two-step directions, listen and do. Cooper needs to listen and do. I heard that a lot. So starting to mimic what they have in the classroom with simple directions. Get your shoes, put them on, and then wait for them to do it. Those are all really good things. And if your child is like mine and they had a hard time with it, it can be very typical for that age. So don't get discouraged. I love this. This is something I hope, if you take nothing away from this talk, I hope that you remember this slide, which is please don't sacrifice emotional and social developments for facts, skills, and assessments. It's truly not necessary for you to sit and make your child do workbook page after workbook page and flashcard after flashcard. When neither of those are wrong, bad, or we wouldn't discourage those things. Those are all really wonderful ways to work with your child. They're simply not the only way. Play with them. Play. Kindergarten, pre-K, even into first grade, there is so many benefits to play. And as Mr. Rogers said, play gives children a chance to practice what they are learning. Play. And when you think you haven't played enough, let them play some more. Parents, some things you might want to, that might be beneficial for you. Always be an advocate for your child. Speak up, get to know the teachers, ask questions, give insight to the teachers into your child, things that they might not see or don't know yet. Get involved, know other parents. When your child gets to kindergarten, they will be exhausted. So work on that stamina now. It's typical for meltdowns. As you think to kindergarten, if you feel a little bit of anxiety, please know that your kindergarten teacher will love your child. They will be loved. Kindergarten is a huge year for your child, academically, personally, independently. And I hope that you take this time to play with them in the hopes that you're preparing them well for kindergarten. And I have no doubts that you are. If you're listening to this or you're on this presentation right now, kudos to you, mom and dad. You're doing a great job. This says summer ideas. Does not have to be the summer before kindergarten. You can start now. These are all really great suggestions and tips for you to do. Sing, dance, talk, read, play. There's a reason that's first. Please do all of those things with your children. Get silly, have fun with them, get involved with them, get on the floor with them and play. Review rhymes with them, read books every day, have experiences with your children, and then talk about them. Talk, and expand on them. What would you do next? Should we have done differently? Work on that pencil grip. That can be writing their name, practicing their letters, or coloring. If they're interested in art, let them color. This one's important. Please encourage your children to know your address and your phone number. That's a safety issue. I encourage you to do that. Give your child a little bit more independence and have positive conversations about kindergarten to help start limiting and reducing that fear or anxiety that either one of you might have. Yeah, and that's kind of it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions or go back through any slides if you wanted to see any. I'm happy to do that.
No, that was great, Jen. So what do you think is like, if you guys had to name like 3 things that parents should really focus on, and some of the things that like, please do not set that aside. what do you think is like even 3 things, or just like a top thing that parents really should focus on to get ready for kindergarten?
I would say literacy. So by literacy, read with your children. Give your child, I know electronics are helpful and they give us a break, and I use them as well, but you might, maybe every other time when you're in the car, give them books instead of a tablet. Let them experience and manipulate and work with that book and play with that book and get used to seeing the words and the letters and the pictures. Second would be the behavioral readiness with delayed gratification. Really helping your child to wait, not necessarily for waiting in line, but just learning to be able to manage their body and just wait. It's not my turn, and they're not going to master it, and that's okay. And recognizing they're not going to master that, and that's okay. That is a learned behavior our whole lives. So, but working on it and prepping them for that is important at this age. And I would say the second would be, or the third, I apologize, would be being able to talk and manage their emotions and talk about it with their peers, with their parent, being willing to work through how they're feeling. Those are all really new for kids. It's all so new.
Yeah, I like what you said about the electronics, because definitely a lot of, kids are going, parents right now are home a lot, and a lot of kids are doing virtual learning in itself. And at Lake Ridge, can you tell me a little bit what your kindergarten classrooms look like, and what are you guys doing right now?
Sure. So right now, at Lake Ridge, we are a natural world school. So we have 93 acres, and our kindergarten students through 12th grade students are outside a lot. And I encourage that right now. I mean, outside is one of the safest places to be. So get outside with your kids. That's what we mirror at school. Our kids do a lot of hands-on learning, a lot of manipulation with the world around them. They are in the classroom, and we do have safety mitigation measures there for the kids with plexiglass and masks, and they are still manipulating and playing. But I'm going to encourage back to the electronics. Get outside. And right now is a beautiful time. Look at our kindergartners are outside looking at our leaves all over our campus, and drawing pictures of them and studying them. And they're working with pumpkins, and they're just really manipulating the world around them as they learn and they go through their day.
And I also like what you said about the flashcards. I know my kids are a little older, but I mean, you buy all this flashcards and, I know you touched on this a little bit, but I think a lot of parents, preschool parents too, are, while also literacy is good in reading, they are worried about, making sure kids know their letters and their numbers. Is there any new strategies that are going on that you think would be helpful for parents to help their kids, that don't involve the flashcards right now? So, or in technology?
Sure, and flashcards are not bad. I mean, and some kids thrive on that. So please, if you're using flashcards, yeah, it's okay. It's totally fine. You know, there's so many things that you can do that don't even cost a lot of money, right? You could even simple things as if you have ABC blocks that a lot of parents, you could take your flashcards and line them out and have them match up the blocks with the flashcards. So well, you're not flipping a flashcard, you're using them, but now your child has the opportunity to move around, right? You can mix them up, put them all, like spread them out over the floor, and they gotta search around and find them and match the A up with the A, match the B up with the B. And if your child's mastering that, you can add a little bit of fun to that. So they have a flashcard laid out, they find the A block, match it with the A flashcard. Oh my gosh, what does the A sound make? I mean, all centered around play and fun. A is or or whatever, and or A is for apple. Then you move on to B, match your block with your flashcard, so they're able to recognize, put them together. You can even have some blocks have capitals and lowercase letters. Match them up. B is for bat, I mean, or mix them up and have them put them into order. All of those, are those new? No, but they're ways, they're different strategies with the materials you might have, and your child is able to move. Right? Or you can even do it outside. Flip a flashcard, you have a D. Now they have to go find something outside that starts with the letter D. If that's a little more advanced, if they already know what their letter sounds are. So they might grab the dog leash, dog leash. And you're just getting creative through play. Those are all play-based things rather than drill and repeat.
Well, and you also touched a little bit on the motor skills, and that's also like a big motor skills, because definitely in preschool and when you get to kindergarten, doing the drawing. Is there any other motor skills stuff that they could do, and as far as in other strategies they can do for motor to get prepared for kindergarten?
So, well, it's the same thing. I mean, anything you can take with yarn, right? And you can make a pattern. That's very great for reading and literacy as well. So if you have beads and a piece of yarn, just putting that bead and stacking that bead on that yarn, that's some fine motor skills. And it's also literacy, because they could do yellow, yellow, red, yellow, yellow, red, and they're working on patterns, and then also taking and putting that little bead on the string. So they're getting fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination with the literacy skills of making patterns. So there's one strategy for you.
I mean, how important it is. I mean, I know that we're together a lot with just our insider family, but, kids might be going to preschool or they might not be going to preschool. And you talked a little bit about it, but is there any other strategies you think about, making sure your kids are getting that socialization with friends? I mean, I don't know how hard is it for kids to socialize on something like this? I'm for the young, are parents trying that? Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know. I don't know. With parents trying it, Zoom these virtual platforms can be really tough for the younger kids. I mean, it can be tough for adults, and it's very difficult with the delayed gratification, right? Because we're all here, but they're all talking over each other. So my personal opinion, I don't think that this platform would be as beneficial for that younger age. It all depends on the parents' comfort level, right? Because the playgrounds are open and they're outside. If you're comfortable with that, I would put your children around other children to play and take all the safety measures that you are comfortable with. If you want to mask outside, if you want to keep 6 feet, but it really is going to depend on a parent's comfort level and what what they're comfortable with. But I will say this, and if anything, any one thing I have found is true as I look at Lake Ridge, and well, I think our school and our Go Forward team who planned for our return did such a beautiful job. The one thing I think I've seen and have been so impressed with is children are far more resilient and adaptive than adults are. So believe it or not, and they're all in the same boat. So a child is not going to go and be the only one who might struggle in a certain area. They're all in the same boat. And I promise you, they are way more resilient than any adult. I mean, children really, really are.
Well, I want to give this opportunity to talk and for those of you who are watching, I think this is amazing information, and I wish I had even more of this when my kids were little. But I want to give you the opportunity to talk about Lake Ridge, because Lake Ridge Academy has so many wonderful programs, not just for kindergartners, but for other grades. So if you could talk to me a little bit about what Lake Ridge is, for those of you who might be a little unfamiliar with this school.
Mm-hmm. Lake Ridge is located in North Ridgeville, Ohio. Some people refer to us as the Turnpike School because you can see our solar panels and our sign from the Turnpike. We are an independent school, so we are a K-12 college prep school. And I always hesitate when I say that, because people wonder, well, what does college prep look like for kindergarten? I mean, what? And honestly, it is the most beautiful thing in kindergarten, because we really value developing an intrinsic love of learning, especially through our K-5. Just really helping children to be curious, to ask questions, to interact with the world around them, and develop a love of learning. And that love of learning prepares them for the more I believe we have rigorous academics in the lower school to begin with, but even more so as they get older into middle school and upper school. We also believe and value our social and emotional curriculum is as important as our academic, because when a child can regulate and manage themselves socially and emotionally, and the two can climb together, they can advocate for themselves, they can interact with the world around them and their peers in a meaningful and purposeful way, that it just spurs the academics to increase. In this COVID world, it's beautiful. With our 93 acres, we have several outdoor classrooms. We have a treehouse classroom, and we already spend year-round outside with our kids. Our kids go out year-round, unless the wind chill is dangerous or it's raining cats and dogs. Our kids are outside. But even more so now, we're using our 2-acre pond, our pollinating garden, our maple trees, our greenhouse, our solar panels, we have beekeeping. I mean, we're using all these beautiful facilities we have to give children this robust education in a way that stays true to our school and our community. And it's really a beautiful place for kids to thrive.
And I know you guys have a wonderful science program. So I wanted to, I wanted to ask, how the kindergartners are involved in science, because you guys have a good science program all the way up through 12th. But and I think, kindergarten readiness is part of that, to not just introduce them to literacy, but science, there's just that, having that overall kind of global learning.
Yeah, our kindergartners really, it's a great time in the fall in particular, which is beautiful. We're talking right now. I think we're in our 6th generation of pumpkins. Our students will plant pumpkins in our state-of-the-art greenhouse, and they will go over there and they will record what they're seeing through drawings of the seed to the plant to the pumpkin blooming. They work on decomposition, all in this state-of-the-art greenhouse where high school kids are working, right? So it's great that they get to be a part of something and look forward to, wow, like this is pretty, we're really doing science. And it's pretty awesome to see that. And they work with oh goodness, what's that called? Where I'm totally losing it. Where they take apart a sunflower.
Oh,
I think about what that's called. Were you? Dissect. They dissect. There we go. That's the word.
Oh, wow.
A sunflower head, and it's just really cool to watch them interact. And that's all right there in our state-of-the-art engineering building, which is where our greenhouse is attached. And it's really great because the kids are seeing this beautiful engineering lab, and they're getting, you know, they're exposed to these really awesome machines that they'll get to use later, and they really view themselves as scientists. We also have Lego First, which is a Lego robotics. Starts in kindergarten. It's play-based, but they are doing robotics at their age appropriate level.
And that's important to introduce those concepts to kids at that age. And, you know, I think parents can also, you know, do those kind of things at home. But, you know, obviously Lake Ridge has been at the forefront of doing these kind of things. I mean, I've been to your greenhouse and it's beautiful. So your facility, but for parents and kids, you know, I'm sorry, for parents who aren't familiar with Lake Ridge but want to learn more information, you know, how can they go ahead and contact you guys?
So I would encourage you to check out our website. We have a very user-friendly website right on our admissions tab. If you're looking for kindergarten, you can find me, Jen Szwagulak, and feel free to give me a call or email me. We also have some really fantastic virtual events coming up. This Readiness presentation will be given by our fantastic kindergarten teachers on October 26th, November 16th, and December 7th. They're all Monday evenings at 5:30. So if you would like to plug in, there's Zoom. You can kind of listen just like this, you know, take your camera off, listen, come in and out, but it'll give you an opportunity to experience our teachers a little bit and hear from them. And I'm confident you will hear the passion and excitement in which they talk about education and talk about the students. Likewise, we have a lower school virtual event, same thing, October, November, and December. So it's a really great way to come in, and one of our greatest strengths is our community, and get to know our community a little bit.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out today and, you know, helping parents learn more about kindergarten readiness. We are having our upcoming next session coming up at 2 p.m. So we're gonna take a short break. But like I said, this presentation will be available through October that parents can go ahead and view. But again, thank you, Jen. That was very helpful. It was nice meeting you. And we're going to end the session right now. And then we will see you at 2 p.m. for our next session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.